For the
Okay, tell
fun of
us
it,
about that. Pick up the ball, run with the ball. Tell me about that. What's the alternative paycheck? So it's obviously no one's making money out of it. What else are you getting out of it? Like
I think
education, hanging out with your
it's several
friends.
things. It's one thing is the need to get something out of my head. Like literally, I have these songs in my head, and even though I'm really bad at it, I have the drive to get them out and make them reality. So maybe I'm freed of them. They're not bouncing my mind more anymore the way they do. Of course, if they're finished, you still remember them, but they're not like this thing. And also for me, music is something that helps me relax. I find enjoyable most of the time. And also a thing about community. But to be fair, if I try to actually release something, it's less relaxing and becomes more stressful. So maybe it's a gradient from helps me relax and helps me get something out of my system.
That's a very interesting point. And I've heard that point from other people is that it becomes something stressful because you have a requirement. You've got this built-in requirement that is, thanks, Frank. What's the word I'm looking for? Yes, Frankie. He's just summed it up perfectly. I have this. It's a financial obligation that's not being met. So I think it's really important to try and figure out what, like you said, there are things that you get out of your music. And if I don't know, Resi, I see your hand. What do you think? And thank you for that, Alex.
Well, I think this is a tougher one to articulate than at first blush as it might seem, but there's a few other ways we've talked about this kind of concept over the course of our discussions. Like we hit on this, like motivation and external demands or requests or motivation. Like when there's something promised back, whether it be attention, especially attention. I mean, that's a powerful motivator. Or I'm going to give you X dollars for this thing agreement. I mean, that's they both, they fit into my ability personally to put something on the calendar, to have it as a schedule. And this is the sort of like trick. This is the sort of balance that I think we were talking about earlier is the difference between just having some um, ideas and a wish to create something for personal reasons versus a schedule to do them, a plan, a way that your year unfolds, a way that your rest of your productive life sort of unfolds. And I know that sounds big, but that is sort of connected to the paycheck that I was thinking of is like when the world starts saying, Alex, here's your 395 euro, you're a professional musician. Like you just did something, you made something and you got paid for it. That's a professional relationship. And, welcome to the machine, I guess, in the parlance. Um, but I'm drawing a little bit of a line between how sustainable that is. Like I do a lot of tech stuff for paychecks, like video and whatever day job shit. And I'm always extrinsically motivated when somebody says, "Hey, we need this thing." I'm like, "Hey, I like doing that thing, and I'm going to learn about those things, and I'll have more skills about those things, and I'll get to play with toys, and maybe buy myself some toys to support that thing." And that paycheck feedback works really well. And when we find that consistency in the art, people say quit your day job. I think that's the kind of thing. Like, I don't know, I haven't made that threshold any quarter in my life, but it is part of my income. And Carl, I want to I want to throw it to you after Mark also because you have some longer term experience with a consistent paycheck in cash and response that I want to hear about your balances with. But first, Mark, do you want to take over?
Yeah, I don't have a lot to say, although I lost part of it. I would say for me, the rewards being where I currently am, are just simply that I have proof of something I invested my time in. Because, like, for instance, I painted my house at some point in time. Did I do a great job? No. Did I do, it's not as good as a professional would have done, but every day I can look at it and say, this is something that I did with help from my friends, but mostly that's my effort. And that feels good, even if it's not great objectively. And I think that's important.
Thank you, thank you. Mark, I totally agree with you. Resi, in answer to your question, everybody goes, man, I really want to be, I want to do this full time. You do. Everyone does. But the bad thing about it is that you cross a threshold in which you become, it's no longer a hobby. It's no longer an outlet. It's a job. And the problem I have with that threshold is that the more you jump over that line, the least it becomes a hobby. The least it becomes therapy. It becomes voice. It becomes, painting your house in a nice color and thinking about the next, what house am I going to paint next? And that balance is really hard. For me, it's very, very difficult because I have a financial reality. But I would simply put it down to saying, think of it that you're wearing multiple hats. One of those hats is promotion. Promotion sucks. Everyone hates promotion. Promotion is the one that makes money. Yes, it does. Kind of, mostly. Sorry, Frank. Then the other one is producing music, and the other one is composing music. Now, they're very similar hats, but the thing about it is that when you're creating music, it's fun. It's got to be fun. So if you're not worried about the hat that puts on money, don't worry about the hat that puts on money. Rejoice in the hat that makes music and the hat that makes your art. One thing that I get endless satisfaction out of is that if there is a situation where I feel I don't have the power to change that, or if a person has pissed me off or a situation has pissed me off, I put it into lyrics or put it into music. And to me, it's not only is it a way of just saying something to the wind and it's gone, but I can firmly plant that into Egyptian pyramid quality concrete, and it's in the ground. And that thought has become permanent, whether to me, or you know what I mean by permanent, long lasting at least, longer than a tweet or a breath of air. And I will argue that your music does stay around longer than a tweet or a breath of air. Because where I'm standing, your music lasts longer than a tweet or a breath of air or a post or whatever you want to say. That is for me something of great satisfaction, something fantastic I have found about my history of outspokenness lyrically. And they are, come on. Angelspit lyrics is very outspoken. Is that there's a lot of stuff that I'll listen to now and I'll just go, I don't agree with that anymore. That where I stand, from what I have seen, from what I have experienced, I'm not there anymore, or the world has moved on, or I've moved on, or I still believe that, but the rest of the world doesn't, or whatever. And it's also a really fascinating thing to be logging, to be paying attention to what was important to me and to the people around me that were having an influence, and now how that's changed. And that what you can get away with as far as music, as far as lyrics, as far as a lot of things has changed. No, it hasn't got worse, hasn't got better, it's changed. Everything changes. The music itself is its change. And that's something that I find really fascinating. That to me is a kind of a payout, and it's a really long-term payout. And on that, I will say it's important to have a short-term payout. Like, this is fun. What I'm doing right now, bam, fun, instant payout. You need a medium-term payout, which is, after working on that song for 5 weeks, 5 months, it's finished. Yay. Then you need a long-term payout, which is 2-3 years later, after you've finished another album, to listen to that album 2-3 years ago and go, you know what? It's pretty good. I did okay. All of these things I think are really important. because at the head of this we called it a paycheck, and I think it really is a paycheck. Money comes and goes. It really, 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 really does. Um, but this is a higher form of finance. I'm sure there's a better way to say that, but I don't know what it is. Alex, do you want to save me from this mess?
It's kind of fascinating because if I ever manage to finish something, the mental reward is immense. Like I have jams that are not very good, but I go back to them because I just like the vibe I captured in the moment. And if I ever get over this threshold, I usually tend to like what I do, like very, very much. It may be a bit self-indulgent, but I like to listen to my own music because it's like nobody captures my own taste like I do. And yeah, if I ever get over that threshold of actually finishing something, it's like mentally gold. But getting there is the hard part because it's like going through molasses or I don't know, sticky honey, I don't know.
Take it, Resi.
Yeah, to me that you just stumbled on or mentioned clearly, not stumbling at all. To me, it felt like stumbling because I was skirting around it. The body of work that you have to look back on and listen to being another piece of paycheck, I mean, that's some good payback. Like the more than the skills that you acquired to go on and make more stuff is like 30 years later, listening back to something that's a fully completed um, piece of work, craft that you worked hard on a long time ago and you don't remember any of the work, you just have the record of the outcome, ties into also what Carl was talking about. And like that's valuable gift to your future self that pays. It's a cool, I don't know, man. There must be something valuable about it because I feel like proud of the work that I've done that I listen back to and still holds. And maybe it's only 1 out of the 10 songs it still holds right now at this point in my life versus that point in my life. But hopefully, there aren't too many messages that I feel the opposite way of or that really didn't age well. Because those would be negative paychecks. But yeah. Carl, did you want to jump in or can
Yeah,
I?
two
Okay, good.
things. The
Yeah.
negative paycheck, I want to put a pin in that and I want to come around because that's really, there's a lot of negative paychecks in this. Secondly, Ivan, welcome. And also, one great thing about I did an album 10 years ago, and either I've done a whole bunch of album between now and then, or I haven't done anything at all, is you can listen back to that album and you can go, what was I doing? Oh, hey, wow, I did a thing in that and I totally forgot it. I did a production thing. And it's interesting, just let me talk about my horrible life for a minute, is that as you all know, and I've gone on about a million times, I've updated to Cubase 13. And it's very clean. Didn't I tell you this? It's very clean and it's great. Cubase 5, from whence I left, had a thing called quadrifuzz. And Cubase 5 quadrifuzz is the best, dirtiest, grittiest distortion on planet Earth. It had a lot to do with the angelspit sound. It also had this multi-band compressor. And these things sound dirty because, well, they're crap. And but man, they're great crap. Going to the new Cubase, they're so much finer, they're better, they've got better sounding blah 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 blahs. So that all sounds better. So it's I really miss I could just pull, like, there's a sound I want to get out of these goddamn drums, and I know how to get it on quadrifuzz, but you can't get it on the new quadrifuzz. Like, I just don't know how to do it. And so there's a learning curve in that, and that's a good thing. But B, I miss. I guess it's good then that in the background is Frank. It's really great. Hold on, Resi, floor is yours. He's on the
These
Vogue.
memories of quadrifuzz are another little paycheck there. And I was kind of wondering, he's a little bit blurred. We can't quite tell what Frank is doing, but you're gesturing into the air at a cat, so we know approximately what it's about. I think that quadrifuzz was the first VST that I used in another program outside of Steinberg's stuff. So I would have been using Craig Anderton's signed signature version of the quadrifuzz in Studio Vision Pro. So, Carl, my question is, although it doesn't quite sound and behave exactly the same, does it still have Craig Anderson's signature on the
No,
graphical interface?
no, it does not. And that's a funny thing. It's interesting. Like, man, I've been using these these distortions and stuff since I was working with
It's a long time.
this is 20 years. I've been
This is
using
the
the same.
history of VSTs, of plugins,
Yeah.
like of probably it goes back
And
right all the way back.
the one I was using is the Craig Anderton. Have I said his name right? It's the version 1.0. And it was fascinating because it not only shaped my music, but it shaped a lot of other music around me. Like I was involved in this kind of like dark ambient label, and early 2000s dark ambient was very different to what dark ambient is now. Um, really curious, really curious. Just the changes in that genre have been. I don't even know if they called it dark. I don't know what it was called. But a bunch of guys screaming into microphones using distortion pedals and feeding back horrendously and all sorts of madness. Whereas now it's become a lot more refined, just like the plugins. And I'm not saying anything there, but it's just, I don't know. It's also a nice thing to go, well, everything has become very much more refined. You can do anything now. Like I was looking, place I'm working at's getting a new DM 2000 Yamaha bullshit $30,000 mixer, and you can do anything on it. And it sounds great and blah 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 blah. And I'm looking at it and I'm thinking about my what is now a very archaic, O2R sitting in the corner here, and I'm just going. There's so many things about the O2R that I love. It's old and it's crappy and it's yeah. I'm gonna say you've got something better to say. Go.
No, I kind of don't, but I did want to ask if I could make one prompt here, and that's Diana, it's really good to see you in the grid for the first time in a really long time without belaboring the fact that health and happiness and all that, yay. If you don't mind, bow out if you don't feel like talking on mic, but before we get all the way away from Paychecks, can you say a couple of words about the Paycheck from eMpTyVeeTV? I think it's an interesting place,
I feel community. It's building a community, and the community is growing and growing, and finding more and more people that are part of that community that I haven't even met yet in other countries, wherever they are. That to me is amazing, and the paycheck, if you will.
How does that contrast with like cash paychecks from working in radio or anything else that you've done also is where my mind goes to it. Like,
I feel,
it might be too big a question. I don't mean to like dump on you first thing back, but I'm so curious.
Wait, I do have the mic on. Okay. I feel like there's more connections made with doing radio, terrestrial and internet radio. It's me on the mic, but I'm not having any feedback. I'm just in the studio by myself. Whereas, okay, when I'm working on sets and upcoming scripts for new hosts and things, yes, I'm by myself just down. But the end result, the final product with new music o'clock every Wednesday, most Wednesdays anyway, is the connection and the community, and I see it growing little by little. As in terms of a physical cash paycheck, that's difficult because I've been on disability many times in my life. So, enough to, because, okay, Adam and I have talked about this before, because we've been disabled, we have the time to do this.
Yeah.
Put the effort into this part, but it's become more than just us. It's, like I said, again, a community which has been growing. So it's far bigger than us. But yeah, that's the reality of it. If I wasn't on disability, I wouldn't have. I mean, technically, what I'm doing online is what I was doing in real life at a venue.
Yeah,
I'm talking. I'm corralling the artists, herding cats, keeping
that
emails
if
back and forth. Thanks.
yeah, since Carl's mic is still off, I just want to jump back in and there's like three kind of paychecks that we're talking about there, and this verges into something else that I wanted to talk about a little bit, and that being art and creativity and social activism being somewhat intrinsic, I would estimate, and your opinion on that. But this ties exactly, hey Adam, right into bills and paychecks and passing the buck back and forth to support people making creative work. And part of a social network and activism is our culture being able to give people who are otherwise disabled some cash to get by so that the creative paycheck can still get cashed. And I think that is really strong. And I think that's an amazing part of culture. And that you represented that and mentioned it is hopefully, I mean, that's fascinating to me. Adam, your hand is up and you joined. So these things together all lead me to believe that we're on topic for something that you have to say stuff about.
Okay, so what Diana said about community being, can you guys hear me all right? I'm sorry, is that, okay.
Right on.
What Diana said about community being the payoff, and what you were just saying about the community supporting us in doing this. Like, I want to look at those junctures just a little bit more, because I'm going to say this, like, financially speaking, the patrons, they literally pay for the cable bill, right? And so that's basically the major overhead, right? The rest of it, it doesn't really cost us anything to do. Like, it costs us time. I feel very strongly like our community appreciates that time. I mean, look at you all being part of the family. And, I think that the growth that we've shown in the last 4 years expresses that as well, going from like 40 to 400 artists in a few years. So talking specifically about the health issues, right? Like, I mean, okay, so at one point, the Twitch community did a fundraiser for Diana, right? To help her get her stuff that she needed. Oh, my cat's here. To get through the surgery and all. And last year, y'all did one for me, and I was blown away, man. Like, I have literally, I mean, literally lived. I'm very frugal, but I have literally lived on that for the past year. I've got my surgery coming up in just over a week now, so hopefully I'll get cat's poking me. Hopefully I'll get on next week to join you as well. But yeah, the donations that we've received from the community, like, we've only really been doing the Twitch thing in general for 4 years, and it was, I mean, a lot of our friends have gone there, so it was a lot of friends who I've known for a long time, but it was a lot of people that I have never met in real life, but we've become acquainted or part of a community on Twitch, on eMpTyVeeTV, on the DJ shows in general. I never would have expected, but I mean, the payoff in that, I want to make this clear, the payoff in that is not the finance, not the donations themselves, but the fact that people care enough to do it. I think that's a big deal. If we want to keep talking about just the paycheck, we can do that. But I think one of the most important things that came up is Carl keeps saying, like, at what point, like, you don't want to breach the point at which it's no longer fun, right? personal satisfaction is a big part of that, and fun is a big part of why we do this. And I think part of the reason that MTV TV remains fun is that we have all these people that want to have fun doing it with us, and that's the community.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I want to draw back around to something that came up before, which is the concept of negative paychecks. So negative paychecks are really interesting because, I mean, like obviously you got trolls and haters, but that's outside of your control. One of the biggest one is the troll and the hater inside your own head, and that's one that you need to. I want to say, you know, that you need to get under control. You're not going to get under control. It will be there forever, unfortunately, and it will be laced somehow into every thought, every dialogue. So, you know, perhaps this is a great exercise in getting rid of that being, or dealing with that being, or coexisting with that negative being. Does anybody else have thoughts on this that they would like to throw into the hat? Resolution.
I do, but this is the hardest thing to articulate so far that we ever touch on, the internal struggle of like getting to it or not getting to it. I mean, it does boil down to being able to say something as simple as that. But I think, no, you know, I really I don't have anything good to add on it. I just really, every time it comes up, I feel like I'm gonna have some insight or some way to articulate the feeling of that battle and struggle. I don't really have it. So take it back.
Okay, yeah.
It's difficult.
It is. Is it Liz? Liz is calling it head trolls. No, Alex is calling them head trolls. Thank you, Alex. That's really, and it's something we talk about a lot. You know, I don't know what it is. Is it guilt because I'm having a good time and I don't deserve a good time? Is it, what is it? Is it, it's funny. Like yesterday, so we're doing this big shift. We're setting up this big musical on this stage, and it's really great fun. And increasingly, I'm loving where I'm working because they're great. Ivan, good to see you. Hold on, baby. I'll be quick. And at junior break, I was talking to one of the guys there about how when you're stressed, those voices get loud. And we actually sat down for a moment and shared what the voices were saying. And it's like, baby, it's as if we're both tuned into the same dark cesspool, because I am not thinking what you think I'm thinking. I am so stressed out right now. I don't have a moment to think about you. And my only thought is, thank God he's there right now. You know, it's really, there's so many things that like it's, I think saying you're wrong to yourself is one of the most liberating things you can do. Everything you think that is about to happen is wrong, because you're wrong. You don't know what's about to happen. It's liberating. Even thinking of it is like this weight's off my shoulder. And what you think those people are thinking about you, they're not, because they're too busy thinking about something else. Probably what you're thinking about them, and you're not thinking about them, so don't worry about it. And this ties into music so well, because that voice is what stops you from creating your art all the time. And overcoming that voice is really difficult. Ivan, what do you think about this?
I think there's a lot of room for like Jungian style shadow work on that one, because like you're never going to get rid of those voices, but you can integrate them, get along with them, you use them for your own purposes. It is probably some of the hardest work you could possibly imagine doing with yourself, though, because that's not easy. But there's a lot of rewards. So, you know, as always, good stuff happens after hard work.
Yeah, you nailed it. And I'll be really quick, Razi. I see your hand. I think what we need to start having is software download apps. I mean, wetware apps, And one that I would like to start downloading is a drill sergeant, and I'll do that. But it's a positive drill sergeant where it's not calling you Gomer Pyle and stuff, but it's saying, and I'm really lucky that I have an app like that in my head. I've got this very, very encouraging guy screaming at me all the time, and saying very, very positive things. And it's got me through a lot of things. Don't get me wrong, I got a whole bunch of trolls in there too. But one thing that is constantly being yelled at me when I get in that rut, that rut, you just stop. It says, what are you doing? What are you supposed to be doing? What are you doing? What are you supposed to be doing? So why the hell are you doing what you're doing now? If your brain is in shutdown, do 10 sit-ups and do 10 push-ups. For me, that's hard. That's real hard. Or try and plank for 30 seconds. Get off the internet. Get off Facebook, get off Instagram, get off all that shit. Focus. Play with Frank. Focus. Get out there. Rezi, what do you think? Oh, hold on. Ivan, was your hand up there?
Yeah, those like negative thoughts, and thought patterns. Give them a name. Once you give them a name, you start to take control.
I like that.
Because the first step to defeating them is know them by their true name. Old Chinese thing, and it works. That does work, and it's easy. That part is easy. You name them. Now they're an entity that you can deal with.
Brilliant.
That was me.
Thank you. Razi, talk to me.
This is a quick one, and just in case this is relatable for anybody, what I stumbled with a minute ago is that I have to admit that I don't have an adversarial voice in my head that manifests as, a character that I could, feel a way about. It just seems like the generalized difficult misery of the world that's a feature of existence. Like, it doesn't differentiate in a specific event that keeps me from doing a thing. I don't know if that's useful, and I don't have great ways of consistently fighting it. I've mentioned a few ways that feel like triumph, but it is a different kind of vibe just on that small detail. Just mentioning that in the way of if anybody else gets that too. So.
Thank you. Wow. Adam, what are your thoughts?
Okay, so I think part of the reason that we get these, quote unquote, negative voices in our head, in whichever form that it takes, is it's like trauma, isn't it? Right? It's like growing up with everybody in society saying that you're never going to succeed doing that. You better get a real job or you're going to end up scrubbing toilets. And scrubbing toilets is a great fucking job for a musician because it pays pretty goddamn well and you can buy more gear. I had a friend who was a garbage man and he was the only guy in the band that had any money. But anyway, there's always going to be somebody that doesn't like your stuff. So what? There's always going to be people whose stuff you don't like. They don't give a shit if you don't like their stuff. Why would you give a shit if somebody doesn't like yours? Another thing is, one of the things that I find very productive in terms of like, call it a negative, but like, you turn it around to a positive, right? Tell me I can't do something. I've done some of the very coolest things ever because somebody said, you can't do that. No, not for nothing. There was even people when we started eMpTyVeeTV that were like, you can't do that. We did it. Yeah. You can't, nobody can remix Season of the Witch. Oh, they can't, can they? Like turn it around on them, man. Like if the thing that bullies like the least is when it doesn't bother you.
Yes, and indeed, treating haters and stuff, putting that voice in your head in the same thing, not caring. Just, dude, you got bigger fish to fry. you've got bigger fish to fry. And sometimes, man, I will get a hater who says something to me, and it's like, dude, you just gave me a line in a song that I really need. Thank you. Yeah, and I just want you to know that your negativity towards me is going to be paying me a few cents per month over the next few years. So thanks. Yeah. Uh, so, yes, thank you very much. Does anybody else want to jump in on the negative side of the paychecks that are actually turning into positive sides of paychecks? Because if not, at this stage, I just want to do a shout out to Culture Vulture. Remember, Wednesday nights, if you're bored, jump on Culture Vulture's YouTube, and Alex is going to do a deep dive into synthesizers, and it's bloody amazing. It's very, very bloody amazing. I just did an interview with Alex, which is going live very shortly, which I'm looking forward to. Does anybody else want to bring up anything else? I see Diana's hand.
I don't. Let me put it this way: in terms of energy, before my kidney transplant, the energy just a lot of times was not there, but trying to funnel it into, okay, I have to do this because the shows come out next week. It kept me moving forward instead of just hiding under the blankets and just having a bad day. And sometimes I did that because I just couldn't wake up or couldn't have energy or too exhausted. But that kept me the creative. I love that we started the channel, but it's also meant for me something to look forward to and to keep me going through all of this. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that. And it's interesting that's the funny thing about doing a creative endeavor is because it is fun, sometimes you take on the work ethic of it being fun, and that's great and it's important. But sometimes you have to go, okay, well, I think I need to start treating this like a job just for this little hurdle, just for this part. If I was being paid blah, 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 blah an hour, then I would be doing this. And so you got to do it. And I was talking to Razi before we started how I really need to focus on angelspit because I've got a half finished album and I've got to start. I hate mixing. I hate vocals. I hate doing vocals. I hate comping vocals. I hate it so much, but it's time to because I'm looking at it and going, I've just been messing around, having a good time for the last 18 months. Now I have to knuckle down and really start hammering these tracks into, finished acorns of rock so that the squirrels of magnificence can take it into the trees. That one didn't really work, did it? No, that was a bit. Razi, did I see your hand?
Yeah, but then I put it back down. But since you prompted anyway, I thought I was going to get away with it. There's a phrase that keeps turning around in my head when we're talking about, is it fun to work on this stuff? And then, Carl, you started really laying into it about the things that you truly dislike about the work. And the phrase is the dignity of labor, which sounds vaguely Marxist, and I'm not sure where it stems from. Somebody will probably chime in with where that comes from.
I think it's a Front 242 lyric.
I mean, sure. Recent history.
Or a V&V
everything
Nation
starts.
lyric, I'm not sure.
Yeah. But there is something to at least ruminate on, if not actually attach your motivations to, in that it does make you who you are and give you a sense of identity and accomplishment. And we've touched on that in our own ways individually, but that also establishing dignity in what you do and pride in the work. You just have to do it. You just have to get to it. And that's a paycheck.
Yeah, and unfortunately, without that one, you don't. It ain't gonna get done because if you're focusing all the time on what's fun, you know what? Maybe no, I can't risk that. I've always wanted to set myself the challenge that, oh, if I'm only going to do it because it's fun, what will I get done? I won't get nothing done.
There's a lot.
What I will get done is I will get a lot of pizza eaten, and I'll watch Lord of the Rings many, many times on the couch. That's what I'll get done. But I won't get it done, like writing a script for this or it's not going to get done. And I just really quickly, Adam, I see your hand, and Rosie, thank you for what you said. It's interesting because right now I'm in a funk because I haven't been doing anything creative in a while. I have not turned on my beloved Mode 1 in at least a month. I haven't turned on my modular in at least 2 months. I haven't actually sat down to create music for a long time. Like, sure, I'm rehearsing Ice Planet 9000, but I'm following a script. I'm not actually drawing from the well. And it's interesting that I now feel, although I'm getting painting and stuff done, but I feel it's just really interesting how my soul gets taxed when I don't make music. Excuse me, and I feel for people who don't have music because it's like, I don't know how you do it. Adam, what do you think about this?
On button, there it goes. What do I think? I have so many thoughts. Prepare yourselves. Okay. So I think that there's a difference between having fun and enjoying doing something. Right? Like a big part of art is the process. Like, I used to do darkroom photography, and the thing that I loved about doing it, I mean, the result's beautiful. It's the process. You know what I mean? It's like not knowing what's going to appear until it appears. It's the sitting in the dark room for hours and hours, and you're just like rocking trays, and you have nothing to do but muse and think and think and think and think and think, and you kind of get to know yourself in that process, and what you were saying about, okay, so if I stop enjoying what I'm doing, I'm going to change it. So like, I've been a DJ for 30 years, right? But I've done a whole bunch of different kind of things DJing, and if I get tired of doing something, I change it. Like, I'm not doing like high school parties and stuff these days because I don't enjoy it. I'm not going to have fun because I'm not going to enjoy doing it. Like, even though I enjoy DJing, I'm not going to enjoy having a bunch of kids coming up to me with their phones going, play this. And that's not the kind of business I want to do now. So, I do, like, obviously the Twitch stuff because I'm injured, but that was a change too, right? Like, we couldn't go out and have fun in real life. So we had to find a new way to have fun, and getting ourselves to the point of being able to do it was something that we enjoyed because we love the challenge. We love the puzzle. That's why we do music, man. It's fucking complicated, isn't it? Compli-fucking-cated, whichever you want. But like, we didn't start doing this because it was easy. It took a lot of practice for us to get to the point that we can dip from the well and do things like off the top of the dome. It took a lot of practice. Like, the other thing is that having multiple disciplines, doing different things, like, you've got angelspit and you've got Ice Planet 9000, but you're also doing paintings and such, right? You've got other creative outlets as well. I think that's super important because then we're skill layering too, right? And the paycheck from all of that, right? Like, the paycheck for all of that is that the kid that you were, that heard the things that inspired you and saw the things that inspired you to become the person that you are, like, is fucking proud of you. That's the fucking payback.
Thank you very much. By the way, I should have told you this at the start, but I'm now starting to cut this stuff up as Instagram short things. Those really annoying things you see on Instagram? Well, that's what I'm doing. So yeah, if you have a problem with that, you can sue me. Because I don't fucking care. Razi, I saw your hand for a moment.
Again, I totally spaced. Like, while you were saying that, I was thinking about all the tools that are used for making shorts and cutting them up, and the ones that I've
I engaged
worked on.
your mind. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But
that probably had something to do with it anyway. So
Another takeaway is that art is fun, not easy. And that's what's funny about, come on, man, same with soccer or football or whatever you want to call it. Same with Kung Fu, same with anything. It's fun, but it's not easy.
Yeah, that just reminded me actually. Every single time somebody I've had a conversation with or like asks me for my sage advice as a wizened elder, I say, no, just figure out how much you need to make and then divide it up. Like you got to charge for this stuff, whatever it is you're doing, whatever the question is. You got to charge for this stuff. You got to build it into your income so it's sustainable. Otherwise, it's not a viable business, and you won't be able to hire people and eat. And music doesn't fit into that. Like I've never made that calculation. I know for a fact easily that it doesn't meet the standards that I set out every time somebody asks. But it's an interesting distinction that that's the gap that we're sort of dwelling in and talking about, like fun versus have to do it versus paychecks. And this one doesn't line up with the best advice and best practices in so many ways. Like it's crazy. That's
Thank
art.
you. Adam, what are you thinking?
I'm gonna try to be quick because I know you like when I'm quick. So I think that hope, right? I mean that's kind of part of what we're talking about, right? It's like we don't know what's going to happen. We hope that something good is going to come from it. Like we hope, honestly, if that probably any one of us is like, well, it would be really great would be if one of my tracks went viral and I actually made some money at this and could work comfortably for a few years without having to have a day job or whatever. And that kind of got me thinking about the types of jobs that we take. I mean, we were talking before about shit jobs. I mean, I've done plenty of shit jobs. You don't even want to hear about some of the shit jobs that I've done because it's too goddamn gross to talk about on TV. But like the jobs that I have done that I do enjoy, obviously DJing has been one of them. That's a span off of my musical career, right? Like I DJ because it's something that I can do that is still interacting with music. Like when I was working in Guitar Center, right, and doing stuff for them, like that was, it was a way that I was using my skills and my knowledge, and in fact increasing my skills and knowledge because I was doing it. Same thing with DJing. Sort of the more that you do it, the more it contributes to your ultimate goals, whatever, creative goals, whatever those are. And so I was thinking, like, I mean, that's a couple of available spans, but I mean, there's like lots of other things too, right? Like, Black Angel, right? He does like Hollywood sound production or something, like that kind of stuff. Chris Smack, right, doing the mastering, and so a lot of musicians do like mixing and mastering, like especially in this day and age. But there's a lot of like little side gigs and stuff that we do as well. Like, I mean, not just the day jobs, you know what I'm saying? I'm kind of curious what some of the other folks in our group here have done or are doing that are what they are doing for a paycheck, and music obviously being a part of that. We're all hopefully have a few cents, as you said, trickling in, but some of us more than others, I'm afraid. But yeah, so that's what I'm curious about is what kind of jobs we're doing to make the paychecks to keep doing the creative work that we want to do.
Carl, should I jump in or are you
Please,
back?
yep, jump in.
I think like a lot of us that were a certain age in the 90s, I started doing web design, just because it was invented and became a thing you could do if you had a computer. And I wasn't trained as a graphic designer, or in UX and UI, like weren't really things we even talked about yet. But like it sustained me for a long time, and it sort of built a sense of how to be an independent business contract or an independent contractor, a freelancer, so to speak, but work within teams and creative groups and do project managing and see things through to completion. And fortunately, I consider myself an audio worker now, as all of my jobs. It's mostly doing things with sound for people. And that has been studio sessions, recording, producing, stuff like that. That's such a arts end of things and such a not technical end of thing that it's conflicting with my sense of who I am as a musician. So most of just mixing some audio, just editing some tracks, just, the real nuts and bolts, bread and butter, meat and potatoes, metaphorical stuff, I find to be a better paycheck day job side of things, because I can build expertise, be super helpful to people, and, leverage that knowledge into my art and creativity when it cross pollinates and influences. So audio visual worker really, but day job is well aligned and feeds into time wise as a freelancer, and technology and the whole area wise for the things that I consider my personal identity also. So they're of a piece. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. I'm at a really interesting point now where I can, I have a rough idea of what my hourly breakdown of making music is. It's close to minimum wage, and I'll just say that, and that's not counting royalties. Royalties is something like streaming royalties is something else. But so because I'm a freelance also audio dude in theaters. So it's good because you'll be booked for a day or 2 days a week, or 3 days or 4 days a week, or then the next week there's nothing. And in that nothing time, you've got to use that nothing time. But I'm at a really interesting point now where I've looked at the pay point of what, and if this is boring, just tell me to shut up. I've looked at the pay point of what they are paying you an hour, of how much you actually take home from that after tax, of how long the shift is and how long it takes you to get there. So let's just say, for example, they're paying you $25 an hour. From that, you're kind of taking home $20 an hour. So for a 4-hour shift, that's $80. But it's not a 4-hour shift. It's actually a 6-hour shift, because it's an hour to get there and an hour to get back. And that's something you got to factor in as a contractor. Now, the problem with doing a 6-hour shift is that you're probably not going to get time to do anything else that day, because you're going to be buggered, and you can't just slot other shifts in there. It's not how it works. So in my situation, I can get a bus there, which is kind of free, but I have to get a lift home because it's not safe to walk home. Welcome to Hollywood. So that's costing me $10-15. So that what was $80 for 6 hours is now $65 for 6 hours. Now, when you do the maths on that, I'm walking home with about $12 in my pocket, $12.50 an hour. That's below minimum wage. And that's at the end of the day what I pay my rent with. So, and I work for non-profit theater companies and stuff because I believe in what they're doing, and I'm a total lefty dude who wants to change the world. And if you want to change the world, music is a damn good place to start and finish and keep going. That's why we're having today's conversation, and every conversation we have every Saturday here on Art of the Rock. So in my situation, I'm coming to the point now where if I have remix work on or something else on, and I look at, well, I could take these shifts or I could work on the music. I mean, ideally you do both, but I'm at a point now where I could go, it's better economically for me to stay home and work on music. Another thing I do a lot of is a podcast where they pay you, a similar amount that I was talking about before, but you don't have to go anywhere. And I charge by the 15 minutes. I'm not one of these pricks who charges, an hour minimum. If I'm doing a podcast, because I do podcasts for non-profit stuff, and once again, LGBTQ stuff, the stuff that's important to me. So, I don't charge the exorbitant amount that a lot of podcasters charge, and I charge by the 15 minutes. I'm sorry, I'm going too deep into this, aren't I? So therefore, it makes a lot more sense for me to say, well, if I've got a podcast on or I'm editing a podcast, it makes better sense to stay at home to do it, because really I'm leaving with double the money. Hate talking about money, but my point is that if you know the finances of what's going on, you're in a position to make better decisions. That, sometimes you're going to get offered a gig and it's like, as a contractor, and you might go, well, actually, of that 4 hour call, the amount of time it's going to take me to get there and get home, because it's an early call or it's a late call and there's no buses running or it's not safe to be on those buses, you might want to turn that one down. Similar with music, which is my whole thing, is that sometimes you're going to get a remix or an XYZ that is not going to work in your favor. And if you're not getting paid to do your remixes or helping somebody else with their production or whatever, you have to ask yourself, you don't have to ask yourself, if you're interested in trying to use this thing to leverage or build your career, you need to be asking yourself, is this going to help me? There's no crime in that. Did you notice how I just pussyfooted around that? Because, I'm an artist, and if I say I'm going to help myself, that means I'm a greedy piece of shit. Meanwhile, the rest of the world's going, fuck you, man, help yourself. So I just want to thank Troll. I don't know what to call Troll, maybe Troy or something, because it's just such a plaid name. I need a plaid name, but yet I apologize to everyone named Troy. Razzie, go!
That's exactly where I was coming from, like right off the top of this thing with the alternate paychecks, is ways to value yourself in the music and shit, whether it's the dignity or the actual cash paycheck or the adulation or the recognition or the legacy or the memories and nostalgia that you've built and you get to give yourself. Like, all of that stuff is kind of a pussyfooting excuse in some ways when you just want to value what you do as a musician. And really, you're talking about how you bill, Carl. I mean, I just round it. I don't even do the 15 minutes generally. I mean, there's two ways to go. Either you just do it with a decimal and you do it exact so that there's no discussion, or you just round it as, my day rate is half a day or a whole day, that kind of thing. Some people respond one way, some people respond the other, but I don't have that same, like, how easily I can come up with those two things for client work, client services, and how difficult it is to say that about the value of music that I've written, produced, recorded, produced, mixed, released. Because the industry's already got a whole thing about how that works. Like, the values are imposed. You don't very much get to state your own value releasing music. There aren't a lot of ways to do that. I mean, people have contrived them, and it is laudable when they're not saying, it's just zero. Here, have my stuff, and you're a huge band. Like, that's a different discussion. But you don't get a lot of opportunities to say, I know what this is worth to people, and it's more than what you're saying it is, after taxes, after buying equipment, after all the years you spent acquiring the expertise, and after all the hours you spent doing the recording. You don't get to dictate that very much, and that's kind of weird.
And Adam, I see your hand. See, that's what's interesting, is that that's why it's important for you to have an alternative currency. That ultimately you're
Exactly
talking
what I
about
mean.
your respect, yeah. And if if you're dealing with a client or somebody who wants to do your music for free, and it's going to be for the promotion, but it isn't. It's like, you are showing me a lack of dignity, and you are showing me a lack of worth. So I need you to say that to my face, and shit's going to get dark. And that's why, that's why the thing that I keep my gate with time is money. If it's something I believe in, if it's some drag queen from some shithole town and they've got nothing but their music, I'm going to fucking help them. But if it's, some huge band who reaches down from heaven saying, I'm going to give you the honor of remixing my work, and I'll, you're not going to get a cut of the royalties or anything, but your name will be on the release. It's like, please fuck off. Fuck off. And that's, you see, that attitude I have is the same attitude I have towards a lot of corporations and stuff. Like, yeah, I just think I'm done with humans. A lot of humans. But Frank keeps telling me to not give up hope. God, Ivan, you're so quiet. Mark, what the fuck? You're not saying anything. Adam, talk to me.
Okay, furiously scribbling notes here before I get on the microphone. Okay. Where to begin? Okay. Sometimes money isn't the goal, but it is a means to an end, right? So you need to have some money to, to do the things that we do. Simply put, you need to have, money is necessary. Unfortunately, of course, the more creative you can be with your budgets, the better. Music videos on a shoestring budget, for instance. Good plug, Adam. Okay. So I mentioned actually over in our Zoom chat here that one of the strange little things that I do is I do music editing for performances. So like circus, dance performances, that need to be a certain length. So sometimes it's extending something, sometimes it's cutting it down, but you got to have all the right parts in there, and you got to make it flow so that they can perform to it easily, on counts and such. But what I do with things like with most things, like you're talking about day rates and such like that. I would say that probably the way that I do it most is by the project, by the gig, by the project, if it's a wedding, I do a base rate. If it's if it's one of the edits or something, $50. That's it. Just every time I do one, doesn't matter how long it takes me, $50. Sometimes they take me an hour and a half, sometimes they take me 15 minutes. You never know, but $50. It's the product itself, right? From it's worth $50, right? It's worth $50. Talking about remixing now we're getting into something that's a little bit more complicated. So I'm an avid remixer, right? I've done remixes for some of y'all, Angelspit, some of y'all, you Shriek, and so I haven't made any money on your remixes, guys, but I'm not complaining because the reason that I did the Ambassador remix was because I wanted to win the goddamn contest. And you know what my payoff was? I won the goddamn contest. And I got to say, I have an award-winning remix of Angelspit, even if it's Carl that's, and that's, well, it's a matter of personal pride, right? Because Carl is a musician that I respect and admire, and a mind that I'm happy to have access to, for fuck's sake. And that's actually the biggest payoff for remixing, right? Like, how do I say, I've never really made any money for remixing, you know what I mean? Like, there have been a couple of people that throw me some bucks to do it, but like, that's never been the point. It's always really been about the pleasure of working with my friends and working with people that are more talented than me, generally speaking. And it is also very, very worth it for me to get my name out there, right? Like, I realize doing it for exposure is something that is a terrible thing, but actually it's really good to get your name out there, because like what you're doing is you're collaborating with another artist's audience as well. And if they hear something that, I like what that guy did with the Angelspit remix, I'm going to check out his other shit, and go, wow, man, I didn't know this guy did all this other shit. I do it all the time. I'm always looking up producers and remixers and stuff for my own shit. And that actually brings me to the next point, because building up my name, right, as a producer and as a musician, that has value for the other things that I'm doing as well, right? Like, that looks pretty goddamn good on my DJ resume when I say, like, I'm a DJ, I've been doing it 30 years, I do weddings, I do corporate gigs, I've got all these fucking great names that I can throw on my resume, and I do this, and I do this, and I do this, and I do this. And you know what? I'm the most musical goddamn DJ you've ever met in your life. This is why, and that's why I charge more, you see?
Go ahead.
One last thing. Last thing. And I saved it for last for a reason. Acceptance. Like I said a few moments ago, the pleasure of working with friends is a big part of it. Acceptance. Like, I feel accepted as your peers because I am creating stuff with you on your level. That makes me feel accepted into the community that we call musicians. We, like there is a line at which you are not a musician, you are now a musician, right? I feel accepted by this group of musicians as a peer, as a professional, as an equal. And that is a huge fucking payoff.
Thank you, Adam. If I may, just really quickly, I can't find the hand raising thing. I found all of these other things, but I can't find the hand raising. They moved it. You said something really important. Money is the oil that lubricates the machine. Money is just the oil that lubricates the machine. So you need to define what your machine is. That's really important. Two, Adam, your fucking remix was brilliant, and I'll keep telling you that. In fact, yeah. Really interestingly, I offered a while back, when I was throwing around ideas for the remix album I just did, is I offered to cut people into the remixes, but no one was interested. Like I actually offered, I said, do you want a percentage cut of this remix? Everyone said no. And that's really weird because I would have said yes. And I would have said, I'll tell you what, I'll drop my fee. I'll lessen my fee to increase the remix. Because technically speaking, if a remix is worth their fucking, and everybody I pulled on was part of this, is that they rewrite the music. All you're getting out of me is vocals because you're not regurgitating my music. I hate that shit. The amount of times I hear don't stop me on remixes. But it was just really interesting that it was like, okay, sure, man, I'm going to give you exposure and I'm going to do everything I can to increase your plays and all that shit. But I'm offering to cut you in. They all of them said no. And that was so interesting to me. That, here is an opportunity for you to actually increase your royalties. They all said no. And I'm not saying it's a good thing or it's a bad thing. It's just like, that's very interesting that, there is a point in your career where you go, yes, I will do this shitty thing for free. Ice Planet 9000, we are now paying for gigs. I expect that to be the way for a while. We are paying for opportunities. Opportunities are not coming because it's where it is. But if you're an older established band, people start paying you, or you start getting better rewards for what you're doing, because that's how it is. And if it's not like that, you've got to think of it like a ladder, and you are climbing up the ladder. When you get to the end of the ladder, I don't know what happens. You meet Gene Simmons. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's just a really interesting thing that, fuck, I don't know. Razi, help me out here.
I don't know, man. My days of telling people what the price is for a remix from me are so far in the past that it's hard to even put it into perspective. But I did just want to say that the social aspect of collabs, songwriting, vocal contributions, playing on people's stuff, asking for remixes from people, and is a purely social experience right now. I mean, yeah, there's some commerce involved, and I cut anybody in who makes significant songwriting changes to a thing that comes out on my label as they get their royalties for it. It's fine, but it is really just, hey friend, let's do this thing. So I don't know. That's valuable to me. I'm not downplaying it as less significant somehow, but it's an interesting facet of the non-business part of it.
I totally forgot what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Do we want to keep talking about remixes because we've kind of like gone into remixes? Do we want to? What are we talking about? What's going on? Does anybody want to be? Ivan, you're so quiet today, dude. The theme of today. Alex, go.
Maybe a quick aside, but I think I already said this years ago, but my problem that I often have is you said that you don't agree with the lyrics you wrote maybe 10 years ago. My problem is I don't agree with my lyrics as soon as I put them on a page. I think I just need to get over it, but I think it's kind of funny because it's like for me instant. And somehow the person writing and the person reading are different people or different opinions. I don't know.
Okay, all right. Thank you. I'd like to talk about this because it's a really important thing. Rezi, I see your hand. Just give me a sec. Are you afraid of what other people are going to say?
No, I'm afraid of being wrong.
You're wrong. How did that feel? Coming from me. Alex, you're wrong.
I think it's
Wrong answer. Wrong answer. I want you to look into your monitor right now and I want you to say, Carl, fuck you, I don't care. You're going to say that. Alex, you're wrong.
I can't.
You can. If I've taught you anything, if I have taught you fucking anything at all, it's fuck you, man. You're right. Your opinion is all you've got in rock and roll. Your sound, everything about it is your opinion. And buddy, brother, there is steel and tungsten in what you bring. I want you to look, watch it. It's really interesting. Ivan, I'm going to throw to you. We're going to be quick. You ready? You're going to catch the ball and you're going to throw it back to me. Ivan, are you ready? Unmute your microphone. Listen to me carefully. Ivan, you're wrong.
Fuck you.
That's how you do it. Diana, you're wrong.
Fuck off, Carl.
I love you, baby. Mark, you're wrong.
Eat a dick, Carl Von Rock.
Fucking love you. Razzie, you're wrong.
Fuck you. Everybody's wrong.
Love it. Alex, you're wrong.
Fuck you.
Yes.
I can't. I love you.
Honey
so much.
bunny, honey, that is rock and roll. Fuck you, I won't do what you told me. Fuck you, I won't do what you tell me. That is rock and roll. And you must never let that go. The rage that's in you. And we've talked so much, baby, there's rage in you. That's the rage, is that at the end of the day, it's you. It's what you think. Fuck everyone else. This is about you. And I've heard your music. You've got a voice. And I want to hear it. Look, all of us, we're just hanging out to hear your damn music, man. Rezi's about to kick your ass. Go, Rezi.
Yeah, I'll say this to you, Alex, but it's the general, like, drum beat. It's a numbers thing. You know, you got to get over a hump. Your first 100 things that you disagree with, or you have the first 20 things that you make, and there's 10 of them. And I'm only saying small numbers as an assumption. Maybe you've made 1,000 things that you just haven't mentioned, but you know, play along. There's going to be mistakes. There's going to be things that are wrong, and there's going to be, in all of those cases, even the ones that you deem right, people who disagree with it, people who don't like it, people who find it wrong. And that's the nature of the thing. And to fulfill your goal of putting stuff out there and get some of the paychecks that we've been talking about, you have to deal with the negative paychecks. And the more stuff you do, the more stuff that you finish and consider work, and the more things that you reject as they don't fit in with your actual worldview that you want to put out there, or the creative angles that you want to, you know, have on your record, so to speak. The more that the really ones that are wrong 10 years later, 15 years later, you know, they become a smaller part just by the dint of there's 1,000 things that you made and only 0.1% of them are truly wrong now. And if everything that you make feels wrong, there's a different discussion to be had. But my suspicion is, for anybody who's feeling that, not quite sure about this one, now I'm really not sure about this one, now I'm definitely sure this one is wrong. Yeah, okay, fine, do another one, make 10 more, make 15 more. And then if none of them are good, let's have another discussion about that, because then there's therapy to be had. But this is normal, kind of what I'm trying to say here.
Yeah, it's totally normal. You've opened a can of worms. Well done, Alex. What are your thoughts? I see your hand, and I'm just going to unleash.
Yeah, the numbers game is probably true. But first, somehow other people aren't so much an issue for me, because I have been bullied endlessly in school, and people hated me for no apparent reason, so that's somehow not something I pay attention to. But if I think I am wrong, that somehow hurts even more. But you remembered me of somebody called Patricia Texan, and she said like she had to do 10 albums until one where she thought, okay, actually I'm proud of this one even 3 years later. So it's probably a numbers game.
And there's a gulf between being proud of it and just feeling like you weren't wrong. Also, keep that in mind. Like that's a
Yeah.
gradient.
But as far as the I think I'm wrong thing, dude, I get your pain. I think all of us get your pain, absolutely, and that's part of the troll that we're trying to overcome every minute. Ivan is about to say something brilliant, and then I'm gonna say something stupid. Ivan, go.
Hey, whenever you think your lyrics are wrong, or they suck, or whatever horrible thing the troll has caused you to believe about your lyrics, I just go read like early Duran Duran lyrics, because like if they're getting away with that,
You won the internet today, Ivan. Congratulations. I'm drinking 7-Up on Broadway. I'm drinking 7-Up.
Between 6th and
You
Broadway.
catch the mirror way out west. I mean, it is. They managed to take those lyrics and make them sound amazing. And
Cherry
like,
ice cream smile.
Yes.
That's very nice.
exactly. I mean, if they can do that, then it's like, and the thing that made it all work was attitude.
And cocaine.
Well, and that's how they got there. But I mean, like you bring enough attitude, you bring enough to make it work.
Yeah.
Like, and this goes actually like all the way back, like, back in the OGs in the 20s. Aleister Crowley was going to do this big ritual with a bunch of OTO folks or whatever, and he forgot the ritual. So, he just like started singing like the British national anthem as a ritual and made it work. Just brought the attitude.
Thank you very much. I guess as usual, we can blame Crowley. One, have you ever watched RuPaul's Drag Race, specifically the older seasons, Alex? Have you ever watched RuPaul?
Nope.
I
I've never
want you
seen
to.
any drag show except for what people are following Instagram posts.
Okay, watch RuPaul's Drag Race. Because one of RuPaul's best friends is Henry Rollins. And those two motherfuckers know how to rock. RuPaul knows how to rock. Like RuPaul, the background of RuPaul is punk rock nastiness in the streets of New York with fucking Henry Rollins. You will watch people on that in the early episodes, because it's become very Tinseltown, I think. You will watch people bring trash to the floor and make it fucking work with such power and such singing the British national anthem so amazingly that Satan goes, shit, I better turn up. That's it, man. You got to turn up. You got to work on your hustle. One thing I've learned about from the United States is you got to learn your hustle, man. Secondly, here's the worst piece of advice I can give everybody, and to everyone I apologize. No one gives a fuck about your shitty little band. No one gives a fuck about your shitty little band. Make them give a fuck about your shitty little band by you bringing it, by you bringing the rock, by you bringing it with, I believe this. People want that, man. They want sincerity. They want the fucking fist of reality punching through the bullshit. I will also say one of the greatest bands in the world who carries so much baggage, it's incredible, Depeche Mode. In fact, Songs of Faith and Devotion was stated by, was it Rolling Stone, as being the most debauched rock and roll tour ever. it was even more debauched than fucking Led Zeppelin or anyone you want. It was faith and devotion. Dave Gahan died twice on stage. Beat that. Yeah, 2 down, 7 to go. Good one, Dave. They've got a song called Wrong. Listen to the lyrics. It's just wow. They feel it too at their level. Also, if you listen to Angelspit lyrics, there's so much confusion. There's so much. It's not like, oh, this is what I think. I think this and this. That's in there a little bit. But there's a whole bunch of confusion, and there's a whole bunch of me taking quotes by Gandhi, by Crowley, by quoting McDonald's menus, by black advocates, by left-wing advocates, by right-wing advocates, by the whole lot, and me just going, what the fuck is going on here? I don't understand what's going on, and therefore evoking a message, which is, I don't know, I'll let you interpret what the message is. I think it's about clarity of the self, but that really comes down to you. So yeah, that's perhaps, if you don't know what to say, I don't know what to say. That's a really good hook right there. What the fuck is going on? There's another really good hook. I don't understand anymore. That's a great hook too. Alex, you're swiveling on your chair. Go.
Well, one of the ways I think coping with don't know what is right is to just paint with words instead of giving a thesis, like landscape. It might, like, if I take the analogy to the full conclusion, a painting isn't reality, but it's a reflection of reality. So that's my way of dealing with it.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much. Razi, hit me.
I do that. I don't say anything directly ever in anything I've ever created or written. I mean, I might have, but it doesn't count for as much. The dragging this back because I haven't been taking notes, but I had an inspired thought a minute ago. No, I lost it. Carl, will you remind me everything you just said so I could comment on it? Can you just play
It was a whole bunch of confusing bullshit. That's
but it was
that's what
good,
was.
and I had something, and then he
You don't know
talked
what's
about the
going on.
lyrics.
It's confusion, and it's about bringing it.
I think that part of what I was keying off of is that how you say it matters so much, and like what you say doesn't matter as much sometimes, depending on the intensity of which thing rises to prominence. And there's a bit of a Marshall McLuhan in there about the medium being the message, but also that the attitude is the message, and the presentation makes the craft, and the words themselves are just the cherry ice cream smile behind the aping.
I suppose that's very nice.
Yeah, right. If you spend a lot of energy borrowing enough style from a band that you really like, Japan, then you can say whatever you want in your lyrics and look pretty doing it. And there's a lot of that message going on, and how you say it.
Yes. It really, really, really is important. Like Alex, remember that. Sorry to say this on a streaming thing, but you come across, you've got a vibe that's dark. You look like a dark dude. Like you look like a thinking, concentrating, plotting guy. And remember that you need to, like, I know you're a great guy. I fucking love you. I don't actually, you're a cunt, but you come across as, you've got a persona as being quite a menacing possible villain. I mean, I'm talking musically here. Mark's giving me a look right now. Musically, when you go into Alex focused mode, there's something going on there that you don't want to mess with. So you need to cash in on that. You need to realize what you look like and how you come across. And you become that person. That make that your mask. The mask that we see you as. Become that person. It's interesting that I apparently, and I have a persona, I come across as being very aggressive and very scary, but then I open my mouth and I'm an idiot. But yes, I don't know what that means. Thank you, Mark. Someone, I don't know. But anyway, throwing it out there. Become that person. Like, yeah, and you can, thank you, Mark. You can be whatever mask you choose. Just deliver it through that mask. And when something comes back, put the mask on and let it bounce off. Anyone else? Oh, for fuck's sake.
Maybe I feel more in a horror movie. I would be the dark forest and not the monster, but I get what you're saying.
Oh God, dude, you just
Whoa.
summed it up. I am
So
the
good.
I am the dark forest, not the monster. Look at everyone's fucking face right now in the chat. You just nailed it. Did you just pull that out of your ass, or is that a quote from something?
I just came up with it, but I think it's an.
Can you write that down right now, please? You have just defined your look, your style, your career. Congratulations. I am the dark forest, not the monster. Holy shit, man. That's great. And say it in German. How do you say that in German?
Ungeheuer. I have one of the words.
In der finstere Wald und nicht
No,
das
no,
Unheil.
don't say it like that. Say it scary. Say it like you're in Rammstein.
Ich bin der finstere Wald, nicht das Ungeheuer.
Yeah, dude. I actually understood what you said just then. Is that bad? My German is coming back to me. Alex, what you just said was incredibly important. I want you to seriously, you're going to do this, or what's Carl going to do? Choir, what's Carl going to do?
He's going to do a shit and put it in a bag, send it to you via U.S. Post.
That's right. That's right. Steers and queers. Alex, I want you to write what you just said. I want you to write it down, and I want you to put it above your monitor. Write it with your hand on a piece of paper and put it on the monitor. What you said is profoundly powerful. Look at Ivan. Ivan's doing his excited hand gesture things. You just said something very dark, very powerful. Because not only did you just make an image of the forest, because, hey man, Fangorn Forest, fucking even the Orokai feared Fangorn Forest. Everyone fears Fangorn Forest. That's a Lord of the Rings reference, by the way. And not the monster inside them, because the forest is more afraid. You have just described your lyrics. Oh, you just nailed every problem you've ever had. You just nailed it. You just turned it into something fucking positive. I'm gonna shut up. Ivan, do you want to jump in at this point, because you're getting excited?
Did do an excellent job of summing it up there. You must run with it now.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, this has been a breakthrough. Group hug. No, seriously, that's a breakthrough, man.
Absolutely.
That was great. Oh, bastard, that was awesome. I wish I had that.
Now do that 100 more times. Come on, let's go. Get with it. Now's the work.
Yeah.
Group hug's over.
Yeah, I could use something like that. Yeah, so albums, go now. Fucking great. Does anybody else want to jump in? I don't think anyone can top that. Congrats, Alex. You just won. You just won. Yeah, wow. That's good. That's good. Yeah. Does anybody else have anything else they want to talk about right now, or do we want to fuck off? What? Razzie, what?
Hi, how you doing?
Oh,
New topic.
Shoot.
If anybody wants to jump in on this, maybe there's nothing to talk about. I don't know, but Carrie, who's been on the panel here a bunch of times, posted a video with her playing her Continuum Mini, Hawken Continuum, and I think the sounds were from the sound engine, and the control was definitely on the Continuum itself. I can talk more about that instrument that I'm now interested in, but the general topic is alternative music controllers and systems and input methods that aren't just the 12-tone keyboard and guitar and stuff? Like, does anybody have anything that they've been working with or interested in that are strange or different music controllers and input methods?
This is fantastic. I was actually looking at this thing this morning before we started when you mentioned it. I haven't seen Kerry's post yet, but I'd really like to. Excuse me. It looks really incredible. It looks like such a fun gadget. Resi, talk to me.
The Und Martineau, which has a finger ring and a continuous way of inputting, and the Buchla control surfaces with their capacitive touch panels. These are all historical ways to input the notes in between the notes, like, so you're not just doing discrete diatonic and chromatic stuff. You're doing all of the glissando and notes, micro pitches and expressive stuff, and also the vibrato that happens on violin and voice and the Buchla method. And there was a camp of Moog versus Buchla, East Coast, West Coast kind of thing, where it was like, nah, this is a lab. No, this is a musical instrument. And like, you get your peanut butter and your chocolate and someplace in between those, and you've got an expressive musical instrument. Why not both? And the expensive Hawken Continuum is kind of proggy, kind of experimental. I think it's Jordan from Dream Theater, or am I mixing up my new prog acts? Maybe that's Jordan Rudess is sort of famous for doing like, licks and dexterity stuff on his. But it turns out that they've always been way too expensive for me to even consider getting into. The Mini Continuum is just a two-touch, multi-touch surface, and it's very small, and it doesn't have quite all the expressive capabilities of the big Hawken Continuums. But it speaks with a very subtle expressivity that you don't get on fretted instruments and plastic keyed instruments. That's interesting. I thought there might be some, I don't know, man, like different notes between the notes kind of stuff, and dimensions of expression where pressure and rolling your finger on it and moving in the Y axis on the thing. And there might be some other instruments that people have seen that do stuff like this that you can bring, or maybe you've built something, or maybe that you've got a knob on one of your devices that does similar expression stuff. But there's a lot to it. And the thing that kept me from hitting buy on it this morning was the Moog, whatever the synth is that they released first for iOS, has a Buchla style touch plate, continuous multi-touch pitch tracked thing where you can like,
Moog.
Put a chord in perfect intonation and then move it out or glide between the notes. And I think it tracks 4 fingers on the keyboard maybe, but I remember doing some cool stuff with that and like just abandoning it. So my goal is to pull that piece of software out and do some things with that before splashing out another $1,000 for whatever it costs for the Continuum. But the synth engine in the Continuum is also pretty interesting sounding. There's unbelievably complicated routing matrix, it seems. That's my excitement about it, and maybe some ideas and inspiration for going forward. Alex, what's on your mind about it?
There is also something similar by Doppler, which is like just a touch strip where it has like the position on the strip, but also the pressure. And it also sends out a gate if you push down. And I think they're working on a new version. They used to have a version which also puts out MIDI, but I think they discontinued it. But I sort of hope that it comes back. And I think if I had more change, I would have bought that because in high school I used to play the viola, and even though I'm not the best person to play it, like this continuous expression is really interesting to me, and I think you can get a whole new dimension of sounds out of it, even if the sound source is sort of sterile or like not that deep in terms of synthesis, but just having fine control about the pitch can get so much out of an instrument. Like, yeah, you can really, even if you just wiggle the pitch bend, which hardly anybody does these days, you can get so much expression out of it. It's better than many synthesis features of a synthesizer,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
That's right up the alley that I was going down with this thing. Exactly the same. And having the touch, interestingly, like MPE, the MIDI polyphonic expression, to translate some of this stuff to other instruments is cool. But the engine built into the device, like, so they're intrinsic, and all of that information just goes, and you don't have to translate it. It's subtle, and this thing, like, I think there's a warning on the front panel that says it's a light touch. You don't have to smack this thing, and just the fact that a glissando is not something you just scoop up to and land on. It's a get there and then roll your finger and listen to the pitch, and that whole experience of creating maybe a monophonic melody, let's say. Yeah, viola and violin, cello, like those instruments like excel at that. It's a really similar thing. Fretless guitar, not so much, but slide guitar to some extent, but that's a blunt instrument compared to some of the things you can do, where even the nature of how your finger went down is not just a velocity message with this stuff. It's a, contact area and roll and also velocity and position on the XY plane that you've landed on. There's just so much information there. Like, we're using computers to figure this stuff out as opposed to just playing a violin. But it's certainly interesting. Yeah,
I'm about
yeah.
to jump in. Keep talking.
I don't really have anything like in mind. So Carl, please do jump in. That's
Okay.
where my mind's gone.
I'm actually trying to find the dope for the 198. I'm having trouble finding this stuff on the fucking thingo. Come on, honey. Is it an interface? I don't know. I've got their old one here. I don't have the, you know what? I've run out of fucks to give about this. So they've got this great DRM2, which you can still get. It's really good fun. Remember that most of your synthesizers have an analog continuous controller analog input on the back, and that's your expression pedal. What an expression pedal is doing, I think, is it's sending out 10 volts to a resistor, which is sending it back. And that means that you can, you can send into it plus 0 to plus 10 volts. Maybe it's 5 volts, I'm not sure. And internally, you can tell it to do anything you want, like, for example, pitch or whatever. There are devices, for example, that dope for R2M, which is still available. They've discontinued it, but it does have a MIDI interface on it. My problem with a lot of MIDI interfaces is that even if it's using pitch bend information, it's jumping between notes. So you're going to hear that, you're going to hear the steps. The good thing about using your AD pedal, expression pedal input, it's voltage. There is no steps. And on a lot of instruments, you can say expression pedal goes to pitch. And you start getting some really fun things going on. I'm doing all of this assuming you're using MIDI and not, not obviously analog. There's a really fun thing you can do by building a variable resistor with VHS tape that, depending on where your finger moves, because it's a really good resistance point. Like if it's 3 feet long, and you go halfway. If it's a foot long and you go halfway, that's an octave. Butter. Because it's using, resistance and shit. Alex, talk to me. Oh, no. Then I want to make a big fucking announcement. Alex, go.
I think you just said what I wanted to say. That's the CV gives you so much control over the synthesizers you probably already have. And yeah, there also maybe one thing, if you have an interface which can read control voltages, you can even control some software synthesizers like in Ableton or Softtube Modular or VCV Rack or something like that.
I approve of this message. Just before we go any further, I want to do a shout out to Supreme Jedi Master Steve Jones. Steve Jones is in Melbourne. He's at the SynthTemple. He's my friend, my mentor. He helped out on Ice Planet 9000. I love this man. In fact, the synthesizer community. Steve Jones is his name dropping story is Bowie crossed the floor to shake his hand. David Bowie walked across the floor at a party in the 90s to shake Steve's hand, and he knew who he was. Because he's the most gentle, loving guy. He just built with that at the Melbourne SynthTemple, which is, I believe, officially the biggest synth museum on earth, the biggest Roland System 700. And I remember he was telling me about this thing for a couple of years now, but he's restored it, and it is fucking gigantic. It weighs horrible amounts, but that's the SynthTemple. There's Ridiculous, then there's the SynthTemple. There you go. Experimenting with this stuff is really good fun. And, if you've got a modular setup, man, building these controllers, like you can get an actual proper ribbon controller. I bought a ribbon controller this long because I'm going to turn that into a thing. And I did, but I never used it. It's really fun. And getting a touch resistor, I found them for like $15, and they're 10 inches. I don't know. That reminds me of a joke. They're 2 inches long, and thank you. Whatever they are, and they're great. But it's only a resistance point, whereas those dopeful ones are pressure, and they're also a gate. Then there's other really fun things like joysticks and all other stuff. Like, man, I just think I don't create a lot of music by actually making it and performing it, because the issue I have is recording it. I mean, I can record the audio, but I'm just such a bastard. Maybe I should start doing that. I'm constantly trying to rebuild, VCS3s or an ideal version of a VCS3, because I am pretty much of the impression there's not a lot you can do with a VCS3. So while you're at it, get a spring reverb. Ivan, you get a look on your face when you're on fucking reverb, Ivan. Seriously. Razzie, talk to me.
I by no means exclusively do stuff by learning it and recording it, but I do really like having that as part of how a song feels like an appropriate challenge, to like learn a part and play it and become expressive with it. And sometimes it doesn't stick and it doesn't make it to like ever playing it live or becoming a permanent memory. But sometimes I do go back to it and learn it. And I think that's really valuable. And these real-time controllers and alternative input methods as expressive devices plays right into that. Like forcing yourself to learn a new interface with the sound, it's makes original moments, and it's like a thing that we return to as creatives, and just even in discussion on this panel, is finding these weird welcome mistakes and errors and strangenesses. And this is a good way to set yourself up to get into some of those, is get rid of the keyboard in front of you and put a weird thing that's
plus
from another planet.
You're turning on your brain. And you're re-engaging the I don't know what the hell I'm doing thing, which in music is the most powerful thing you've got, because that's when you're going to create something fantastic. Ivan, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I've got the Hydrosynth Deluxe, which is poly AT. I've got my poly aftertouch going on. It also has a ribbon controller, a nice long one, and the mod wheel, of course, and then like 2 mod inputs for pedals. So like overall, it is, even if you're not using it as a synth itself, it is an amazing controller because it's got everything. And like as I work through things, I've been using the Op6 quite a bit lately, the Korg, because the Op6 is really good at doing FM. Like it is like a great UI for doing FM. And cool thing is the Op6 by itself doesn't do poly AT, but it accepts all the poly AT inputs. So the key bed on the Op6 is blah and horrible, but running it with the Hydrosynth, oh, well, now you're in the zone. And the Op6 is more than capable of, you're not just opening the gates to hell, you're discovering just how rusty they are.
That's a good quote. I like that. Thank you very much. Raz, what are you thinking?
I just wanted to say Vangelis CS80 before anybody else did, since it's inevitable that was about to come up. That's all.
I think there's two CS80s at the Synth Museum.
I've never actually touched one, but I probably should.
I carried Steve. One of them is Steve's. I've carried Steve's down the stairs. No, it wasn't nice. It was heavy as fuck.
I know they're very,
It weighed like a dead body.
Yeah.
It was so heavy I couldn't believe it. And he said, "Oh yeah, I've lifted this myself." It's like, how? Yeah, and I remember Steve once said about the CS80 that tuning it is more, it's not maths, because you tune one and then the other one goes out, and you tune that one. He said it's more intuition. I thought that was great. Yeah, I'm looking at this Doppler dude right now, and it's
the ribbon controller.
Yeah.
That looks cool.
I think you buy them separately or something. Alex put a link. Thank you, Alex.
No, you can buy it separately, but I think they discontinued the MIDI thing. It's just the module.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, this is it's a really
But I
fun
think
looking.
they're working on a new version, maybe that will have MIDI again, hopefully.
Okay. This looks crazy, or as the kids say, cray. Yeah, interesting. It's sort of fun that with Ice Planet 9000, because hey man, I'm doing stuff live now. I go, oh, I could be into this sort of thing. I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of fucking. I'm going to buy more gear now. I'm done with that. I am instead going to try and make shit work. Guys, do we want to call this amazingness? It's been such a fucking great day, and I'm really grateful. Yeah, all right. I have really nothing intelligent to say because that's just me. Thank you for joining Out of Rock. Every Saturday we are here. Do me a favor, mark it in your calendar. Even more fun, go follow angelspit's Twitch, because it's the place to be, or something. And this is brought to you by angelspit's Patreon. Got a couple of bucks, throw it our way. We could definitely use it. There's a gig in Hollywood that I'm so excited about. On December the 11th, it's going to be ambient. It's going to be great. It will be the first of many. Because we're fucking doing it. If you got a chance, please check out Aaron's Kickstarter. It's for short horror things, and it's bloody great. If you want to hear a whole bunch of amazing music, go to the Industrial Incisions playlist, because it's awesome. On your Wednesday nights when you're bored, listen to Vulture Culture, because it's incredible. But right now we are going to right on over to eMpTyVeeTV, because there's going to be some amazing music that you need to hear about right there, right now. And as we're rating, please remember eMpTyVeeTV has got a Patreon. It's there. I want you to back that Patreon, because we've got to keep this going. And another person we have to keep going is Razi. Thanks again, Razi. You're fucking awesome. Go check out Razi's shit. Diana, let me know when we've rated. We're gonna hang back and talk and have
First,
therapy.
I want to say that angelspit has the rerun of their hosting tomorrow on eMpTyVeeTV at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern.
Thank you, Diana. And once again, if you missed that link, it's right there. Please like eMpTyVeeTV, because I'm telling you, you're going to hear some really awesome, awesome, awesome music in there, including the new May Grace video and Lux Voltaire. All right, you guys are rocking. Go to eMpTyVeeTV. Let's raid this. Let's raid this funky banana. Raid this funky banana. We're going to raid this funky banana. Tell me when we raided, because this song is really running out of stuff to sing about right now. Funky banana? What the hell is that? Have we raided?
It looks like it's in the process.
Oh,
Mine
it's in the
just did.
process.
Okay.
Wow. Everyone's going, okay, you guys rock. How do I stop this? I don't know. Oh, ah! No, I don't want to do that. God damn everything. You know, this technology, man.